Bills Mafia, tonight on the Air Raid Hour post-game show, we are diving deep into all things Bills Chiefs. We've got the latest injury updates, major takeaways, and a whole lot more. Stay tuned. This is a breakdown you won't want to miss. But first,
welcome to the Air Raid Hour, a Cover One Network podcast. Here are your hosts, Judge Mathis and Tilt Money.
welcome into the Air Raid Hour presented by Picasso's Pizza and the Cover One Sports Network. My name is Steve Mathis. You can find me on Twitter at The Bills Guys. Joined as always by my co-host Dave Tilton. You can find him on Twitter at Tilt Money. The comment section already popping off. Welcome in this evening as the Buffalo Bills have defeated the Kansas City Chiefs. It is a victory Monday, 30-21 to improve their record to 9-2 heading into the bye week. The win puts us squarely in play for the number one seed in the AFC down the stretch. A Jets and Patriots loss inch us even closer to a fifth straight AFC East title. But I want to focus today, Dave, on the present. I even went as far as to turn my phone off for the second half of that game yesterday. I just wanted to take a step back and enjoy the game as a fan. And boy, did Josh Allen, Terrell Bernard, and many, many others put on an absolute show. Well worth putting the phone away in the second half.
Yeah, and you said before in the pregame show that your anxiety level would kind of pick up right as the game started, and we kind of talked about, well, in the grand scheme of things, this game at the end of the day doesn't matter because it's really about what the Bills do in January. But once the ball was kicked off, I mean, we were all in on this game. Like, let's not pretend like, and we were like, I was invested. I didn't sit down at all once during the entire game. Like, I was pacing back and forth. I was like, it was definitely a lot of anxiety, because I just had this like kind of like feeling that the rug was going to get swept out from under the Bills one way or another. And I thought at a couple different times that was going to happen, but in the end, the Bills prevailed. And now the fourth time in a row, they've beaten the Chiefs in the regular season. And now I believe the Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes head to head overall, including playoffs, is 4-4, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he is the only quarterback in the National Football League to defeat Patrick Mahomes 4 times, or maybe the Bills are the only team. Either way, Josh Allen was at the helm for all of those games. And I don't know, we get, and I posted this on social media today as well, so apologies for anyone who saw the tweet, and I'm just kind of repeating myself here, but we get so caught up in the rat race, I think, as content creators that, at least speaking for myself, I sort of have become numb to this Bills-Chiefs matchup. It sort of every year becomes about pushing out content and what's the scheme and what are the narratives and the big picture kind of things surrounding the football game. So again, kind of like putting my phone away in the second half, I kind of wanted to just put myself back into the mindset of 26-year-old me, who was a 10-year season ticket holder, born just months before the Bills' first Super Bowl loss, and 17 years into a playoff drought. I wanted to put myself back into that person's body, and I wanted that person's mind, and I wanted to think about this football game from that perspective. And when you look at everything that CBS did surrounding this game, it honestly felt like an AFC Championship game production, from the live pregame show in the parking lot with Bill Cowher slamming himself through a table and JJ Watt shotgunning beers, the drone shots of the stadium that were, I think they were in 4K. I don't really know how that technology works, but they were just so, I was just blown away by those camera angles. Just kind of a way to look at the stadium that I feel like I've never seen before, with all those fans in the stands. It was absolutely incredible. The graphics, Nance and Romo on the call. It wasn't just a regular season game to this network. And you have the league's two biggest stars. It is probably currently the marquee rivalry in the biggest sport in the United States, the second biggest sport in the world behind, you know, the other football, soccer,
Mhm.
right? It honestly, if you look at it, and again, I can't really take too much of a global perspective on it because I don't follow the other football too much, but this might be the biggest rivalry on planet Earth right now, no hyperbole, in all of sports. And if you would have told me 10 years ago that all of this would be happening and that Josh Allen would be scrambling, a guy named Josh Allen, because we would know Josh Allen is 10 years ago, a franchise quarterback would be scrambling on 4th and 2 for 26 yards for the game winning touchdown. And millions and millions of people will be watching this marquee matchup. I, I would not have believed you.
Well, I mean, look, there are a lot of storied rivalries, especially in the US, right? And I'll kind of keep it confined to the US. You've got, UNC Duke, you've got the Red Sox and the Yankees, you've got a bunch of rivalries like that. And even in the NFL, right? Bears, Packers, but that's been very one-sided as of late. Like in the NFL, I think right now there isn't a better rivalry than Bills Chiefs because you do have the two biggest stars in the league. It's a very interesting rivalry because these teams are not in the same division, but they're in the same conference. And because of the way scheduling works, with the way you
Mm,
place teams in other divisions and the way things work, these teams have now played each other in 4 straight regular seasons, and have played each other 3 out of the last 4 years in the playoffs. So it is, as I said on the pregame, and as others have said, like this morning on Get Up and previous shows, like this is our Manning Brady era in the
mhm,
NFL with Mahomes and Allen. And so, like, yeah, you can talk about other rivalries in professional sports and again in just the US. Steelers Ravens, that's a good one, Jessica, that kind of like have the historical, maybe more historical legacy significance, like that we
mhm,
just talked about. But in recent years, and the level of attention, right, that the NFL gets compared to other sports in the US, the number of eyeballs the NFL gets compared to other sports in the US, and couple that with that fact that you have the two best players in the NFL on each side of these teams, that really makes it a special rivalry. And I do think it's unique that the teams aren't in the same division, and that kind of, in my way, in a way, for me,
mhm.
adds to it because you only get this really once per year in the regular season, if that, and then in the playoffs once, if you get that as well. So it is a very special rivalry to be sure. Yeah, for sure.
As fans, it's important to note, like, this was not our Super Bowl. The Bills certainly know that they still have work to do. Sean McDermott made that clear in his post-game sort of speech to the team. But as a fan, man, this has got to be up there with some of the all-time moments in Buffalo Bills history. I think the euphoria I felt after this win probably up there with the beginning stages of what Sean McDermott and Josh Allen have been building here, and that was the Thanksgiving win over the Cowboys at
Mhm.
the beginning of this whole run. I think that was up there with this one.
It was up there. I mean, you go back and there's a lot of good YouTube videos out there about like Josh Allen's best moments, and you know, starts a little bit with that game his rookie year against the Vikings, right? And then it builds kind of to that Thanksgiving game against the Dallas Cowboys. And then it builds from there with the dominant performances against the likes of the 49ers and the Patriots and that famous Stephon Diggs 3 touchdown game. And you have these like dominant performances over the course of seasons, Seahawks, Rams games a couple years ago during the COVID season. And then you get some of these dominant games and signature moments from Josh Allen, the Steelers playoff game a year ago with that big run. This run that he had at the end of this game felt a little bit similar to that, but probably even
Mhm.
somehow more impactful, even though this was a regular season game because of the scenario you were in. And so it's one of those things where you have Josh Allen on your football team, and these types of plays that are not normal by any stretch of the imagination have somewhat become normal for him.
Mhm.
And I think in a way, everyone appreciates it, but I almost feel like it, it almost a little bit takes away from him because we've been so accustomed to seeing him do this. We don't maybe take a stop and think of how incredible it
Mhm.
really is what he's doing on the field.
Yeah, I'm going to save a little bit more on that for our one big thing, which is coming up here in a moment. But this might have been Josh Allen's best game ever as a Buffalo Bill. Like I understand he's had better statistical games. I know the Patriots wild card game. I know what he did 13 seconds walking off the football field with that lead against Kansas City. I get all that. But given what he was missing on offense in this game, and given what Kansas City did to really stop completely our running game in its tracks, what Josh Allen did in this game was absolutely incredible. And despite the fact that the statistics might not mirror some of his better games of his career, it might have been his best overall performance ever.
I mean, it's up there, right? And like obviously, if you go back and look,
Mhm.
that interception really wasn't his fault. But when we had to, and you got to say, like the Bills were in a ton of third and longs in this game as well.
Yep.
When it mattered, he made the plays. And look, we could end up looking back on this, and Jessica says it right there, third and long conversions. It was huge.
Mhm.
The decision making coupled with the talent now is something that a lot of people have started talking about this year because of the limited turnovers. And in a game like this against the Chiefs, we said going in that the Bills have been better about taking the ball away. The Chiefs couldn't you couldn't let the moment rise above you, as in the sense
Mhm.
that like don't let the moment overtake you. And Josh Allen didn't let the moment overtake him. He overtook the moment, and
Mhm.
ultimately this may go down as one of the better games in his career. I'm not quite ready to put it above the 13 seconds game or the wild card game, but it's
Mhm.
it's in the top 5, I would say for sure.
Yeah, on the route Mount Rushmore, and kudos to Jim Nance for having sort of the wherewithal in that moment when Josh Allen was running for that touchdown to literally call it the play of the year.
And he
As
explained
the
it afterwards too, by
yeah,
the way.
yeah, it was absolutely incredible, and we're gonna get more into that. Like that was an MVP performance that you saw from Josh Allen, and we'll get into all the specifics of why it was. And he is now the betting favorite for NFL MVP. But first, a word from our sponsor.
What's up, y'all? Khalil Shakir here. When I want Buffalo pizza, it's got to be Picasso's.
Khalil Shakir. Your team, our pizza. Picasso's. This is Buffalo Pizza.
This episode is brought to you by Picasso's Pizza, with 4 convenient locations in Williamsville, West Seneca, Lancaster, and Blaisdell. Picasso's Pizza has been serving Buffalo's best pizza since 1980. Whether you are a local or across the country, you can enjoy their delicious pizza delivered fresh to your door. Visit picassospizza.net to place your order today. Again, that is picassospizza.net. All right, before we get back to Bills Chiefs, let's do a little injury update. Some Bills news coming out of One Bills Drive today. The only injuries really that I can think of to report from the game were Deion Dawkins and Khalil Shakir, both who left the game at some super inconvenient times there on the final drive, but they both did eventually return to that game against the Chiefs. And then you have all of the other plethora of injuries the Bills have been dealing with. Sean McDermott today says all injured players are making that sacrifice. They are staying in Buffalo over the bye week so they can be assessed, and hopefully the Bills can start returning some of these injured guys to the field on Sunday Night Football against the San Francisco 49ers on December 1st. Those players include Spencer Brown, Dalton Kincaid, Keon Coleman, and Matt Milano. So the Buffalo Bills are 9-2 heading into their bye, and they're about to get a heck of a lot healthier.
Yeah, and McDermott said in the press conference today he didn't believe there were any new injuries coming out of the game, like you mentioned, which was a huge win as well. Deion Dawkins gave us a little bit of a scare, came back in. I think he only missed one play. So yeah, this perfect time for him as well with that ankle,
Mhm.
to had an extra week to kind of get him back to 100% as well. Both of those tackles now with ankle injuries. So hopefully they'll both be back, him and Spencer
Mhm.
Brown, after the bye. But very good to see that no new injuries popping up. And as the Bills get healthier going into this home stretch, we now have to hope that they can maintain that health going into the postseason, because at this point in time, it certainly looks all but assured that they're going to win the division. And now it just seems
Mhm.
like a matter of how high of a seed can they get in the AFC.
I'll tell you what, the toxic negative thoughts crossing my mind when I saw Deion Dawkins on the ground there. I'm like, okay, of course, on this final drive where we can put the nail in the coffin of the Kansas City Chiefs heading into a crucial 3rd and 2, of course, Deion is going to limp off the field. Our backup right tackle is now going to flip over to left tackle, and a practice squad guy is now going to be in at right tackle. There's no way we're passing the ball. The Chiefs know exactly what we're going to do. They're going to stuff this run. We're going to kick a field goal, and then they're going to drive down the field for a game-winning touchdown. Like, that is literally what was going through my mind. So I want to take a second, and maybe this is your one big thing, and we can get into it in the one big thing, but Sean McDermott's decision to be aggressive, 4th and 2, not give Mahomes the ball back and go for the kill, keep the ball in the hands of Josh Allen. Man, what a great decision, obviously, in retrospect. But he also said if Josh wouldn't have picked it up, he wouldn't have lost any sleep because that was going to be his decision no matter what.
100%. And I guess we can segue into that. My one big thing is the coaching in this game. And ultimately, we're going to talk about Josh Allen a ton, but the coaching, we said in the pregame, number one, the Bills are going to need to stick with the run game, even if it's inefficient. They did that. The quick passing game, Josh Allen actually had more time than I anticipated in this game to throw the ball. And the third thing I said in the pregame was getting him outside the pocket, which he did, and using his legs. We said this might be a game where he uses his legs more than we've seen in the past several weeks. And all of those things ended up coming true. But Sean McDermott's decision-making, and I would just say the aura around kind of how he coached this game. I know the challenge seemed a little odd, and he answered questions about that today, but this is like one of the few times I feel like in the Sean McDermott era where he's gone up against a guy like Andy Reid, who's, one of the best coaches of all time in the NFL. And you felt like maybe in this game that Sean McDermott actually outcoached Andy Reid and had one of his better coaching performances. And what I hope this translates into as far as the one big thing is momentum going into the rest of the year and then into the postseason is where I want to see this type of thing continue from Sean McDermott. Not coaching scared, coaching to win the game in the playoffs. That's all you've got. You've got only one chance. This isn't baseball where it's a series. This isn't basketball where it's a series. You have one game to win when you postseason. And I want to see this performance of Sean McDermott and really the rest of the coaching staff now translate once we get to the postseason. And to me, so that's my one big thing, maybe, is a little bit of a window of evolution here from Sean McDermott as a head coach of this team, and kind of finally maybe seeing a little bit of, incremental improvement, I guess, in that area, or what the fans, not necessarily matter what the fans want, but going for the win as opposed to coaching not to lose.
And I'll tell you what, there was an awesome peek sort of behind the curtain at the Buffalo Bills thought process on WGR today. Sean McDermott was talking to Shope and the Bulldog, and Mike Shope asked him about that decision to go for it on 4th and 2. And I didn't hear the audio. I've only seen a summarized version from Adam Pencil in our Cover One group chat. I don't know if you've had a chance to see the Cover One group chat yet, but McDermott, when discussing that 4th and 2 decision, he says that every week the Buffalo Bills sit down as a coaching staff and they make a decision. Is this going to be a possession game, or is this going to be a field position game? And then they make their 4th down decisions, and their equations and their formulas and their analytics are determined based on what kind of game they want to play. This, for the Buffalo Bills, was clearly a possession game. I almost said field position game, but a possession game. They wanted to possess the football as much as possible, meaning going for it, continuing drives, longer, more plodding type of drives, keep the ball out of the hands of Patrick Mahomes. My guess is the Buffalo Bills, when they are playing teams like the Kansas City Chiefs and these upper echelon opponents, are going to take a possession game type approach. And we have that sort of window into their thinking now. maybe as you see them maybe play some inferior opponents later on this season, like the New England Patriots, you might see a different approach, like a field position type of approach, where if they're rather confident that our defense can stop that offense, and they don't really care too much about taking some adverse risks and giving plus field position to some like inferior offenses. You might see more of a possession game where they punt it deep. But Sean McDermott went out there today with this possession game mentality, going forward on 4th and 2, and he literally out-chiefed the Chiefs. We're going to get to the complimentary football tracker and the toxic differential tracker later. He kept Patrick Mahomes off the field, and he made sure it was Josh Allen who had the ball in his hands with the game on the line.
He did, and there were other little things that you noticed throughout the game that kind of hinted at that. Right, the end of the first half, right?
Mm-hmm.
The first down play, and they take 20, 30 seconds off just to get the clock to the 2-minute warning. Force the Chiefs to make a decision there, take a timeout, or let that clock go to the 2-minute warning. The Bills were around midfield at that point and said, you know what? We've got plenty of time. No reason to rush this. We're not going to give the Chiefs the ball back. And Romo made that point a couple times on the broadcast. At the end of the game, you see before Josh Allen's big touchdown run, passes to the sticks, running plays to kind of keep the clock moving, even though they were inefficient. That first down play to Dawson Knox for 5 yards where he just kind of floated it out to him. Hey, that's 5 yards on first down. The clock's moving. The Bills started that drive with about 7 minutes left to go in the game, if I'm not mistaken, and then they end up taking it down to under 2 minutes. So that was huge, being able to kind of flex that possession. Like you said, the Bills end up with about 8 minutes more possession in this game than the Chiefs, and we're going to get to that in a second. And I 100% agree that was a great formula in this game, and giving yourself a chance to keep the ball more was a better way for you to win this game than trying to either like play a little bit more conservatively, kick field goals, etc. So I fully am on board with that style for this type of game, and it worked. They put up 30 points and had the ball for over 8 minutes more than the Chiefs.
My big thing from this football game, no disrespect to Sean McDermott, to Terrell Bernard, who had a spectacular game, to this defense that had a spectacular game, to Aaron Cromer, whose offensive line pass blocked their ass off with Spencer Brown not being able to play. My one big thing from this football game is Josh Allen. I mean, if you would have told me that the Buffalo Bills running backs were going to combine for 2.6 yards per carry with a long of 8 yards, I would have told you the Bills lost this game by 2 to 3 scores, that Josh Allen probably had a completion percentage sub 60%, and then he probably had a few turnovers to go along with that low completion percentage. And that's not a knock on Josh Allen. We just had no right tackle. We just lost our right tackle. I shouldn't say we had no right tackle because Ron Vandermark stepped up, but no right tackle, starting right tackle heading into the game. No Keon Coleman, no Dalton Kincaid. Samuel has been dinged. Cooper coming off of 2 weeks of injury, only playing 2 games for the Buffalo Bills previous to this. This game was literally, and a number of media personalities have discussed this in the wake of this game, including Tim Hasselbeck, who did a great job discussing it on ESPN with Scott Van Pelt, and Bill Belichick, who did an awesome job describing it today with Pat McAfee. He just took this offense on his back. He took this team on his back, and I don't want to take too much away from the defense, and he literally just carried them to a victory. He put the Superman cape on. The Buffalo Bills were 9 for 15 on third down. He was their leading rusher. He was making smart decisions all game, minus that one turnover that he had. There were 0 sacks in this game. He was doing such an excellent job maneuvering and stepping up in the pocket. This is the first team to drop 30 points on the Kansas City Chiefs in 2.5 freaking years. 4th and 2, Spags calls a play. It honestly tricked Joe Brady and the Buffalo Bills. They had a man beater. The Chiefs dropped back into zone. It didn't matter because Josh Allen took the ball himself, picked up the first down, and then carried himself all the way into the end zone. This is what an MVP performance looks like. Lamar Jackson has been putting up great box score statistics all year. with Derrick Henry and a pretty freaking loaded offense. Josh Allen might not statistically be where Lamar Jackson is, but given the context of what has surrounded Josh Allen and the circumstances with which has surrounded Josh Allen this year in a retool year with all these injuries, that was an MVP performance, and that's what an MVP performance looks like.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see really. I mean, obviously there's still games to be played, but are the goalposts going to move again for what's
I
considered
think
MVP
in terms of
consideration?
who gets to vote, I think this was the game that changed the mind. Like we've had this conversation. We don't really respect a lot of people who have MVP votes. Like they're kind of superficial, hot take artists. The NFL has given some MVP votes to some insanely unqualified people who have no business being in the conversation of choosing an NFL MVP. But this is the kind of narrative busting moment that I think is going to sway those small-minded people in the national media who actually for some reason have an MVP vote. Like this was a tide turning moment, I think.
Well, and then I'm just saying about the double standard, right? Last year, Lamar Jackson's numbers, if we talk about numbers, weren't as good as Josh Allen's, but he was on the team that had the better record, right? And that defense was fantastic, and the Ravens were the 1 seed last year. And so Lamar Jackson, even with good numbers, but not what has historically been MVP level numbers, won the MVP. So I'm curious this year, Josh Allen on a team that's 9-2, 2 games better than the Baltimore Ravens right now, with maybe slightly lesser numbers, but on the better team. The Chiefs being 9-1, the best team in the AFC right now based on record. Patrick Mahomes not in the MVP conversation, rightfully shouldn't be. Are you going to move the goalposts if you're the MVP voters and do the opposite of what you did last year, in which was give the MVP award to the guy with the lesser numbers but on the better team? You better not do that this year if you're going to try to stay consistent. If you're going to give the MVP award to the best player on the better team, then it's got to be Josh Allen. And by the way, his numbers are pretty damn good anyway. So that's where I will get very frustrated if the criteria from year to year changes just because of who the person is that's in this driver's seat to win the award.
Looking now at some of the advanced data, or just some of the data that we usually track here on the show, the Buffalo Bills absolutely dominated complimentary football. They absolutely dominated toxic differential. When you break it down, time of possession, the Bills 34 minutes to the Chiefs 26. That's a win for the Buffalo Bills. Average starting field position, the Buffalo Bills, the 31-yard line, to the Chiefs, who had an average starting field position of the 27-yard line. That's a win for the Buffalo Bills. Counting turnover on downs, the Chiefs had 3 turnovers. The Bills had 2. That's, again, another win for the Buffalo Bills. So the Buffalo Bills checked all 3 of those boxes on our complimentary football tracker this week. And on top of that, won the toxic differential battle as well. So on top of playing complimentary football, they were more explosive and forced more turnovers. Both teams had 1 rush over 10 yards. The Chiefs, Kareem Hunt. The Bills, Josh Allen on that game-sealing touchdown run. 16-plus yard passes, explosive passes, 6 for the Bills compared to just 2 for the Chiefs. And then turnovers, obviously, Bills forced 3, Chiefs forced 2. So the Bills were plus 5 in toxic differential this week.
Yeah, and who knows what would have happened, but in +4, or who knows what would have happened if Xavier Worthy kept his foot in on that, that one catch. Bills got a break there with that one because that would have been a big play for them at the time. But yeah, it was interesting. The Bills did a really good job in sort of limiting the big plays against the Kansas City Chiefs. A guy like Travis Kelce, who's been a thorn in every team's side, but especially the Bills side in the past. I mean, look at what Terrell Bernard did in this game to erase the big plays from Travis Kelce. And it just, again, makes you wonder what could have been last year's playoff game if Terrell Bernard was there. But in any case, Bills limiting the Chiefs' big plays. Xavier Worthy doing his part to help us out by not keeping his foot in bounds on that big long play down the left sideline. Chiefs really never went back to him on any shot plays after that, which was quite interesting. So kind of, I don't want to say made the Bills' life easier, but man, they did a good job of, and Romo mentioned it all game, of having pass rush lane integrity, limiting the big plays from the Chiefs. And on their own front, like rushing was tough. I mean, there was no doubt about it. And Josh Allen with the one big run, but I give him credit again for sticking with it and kind of trying to at least open things up for that passing game. And as you mentioned, the Bills with 6 toxic pass plays, which again was a huge factor in this game, and especially a lot of those coming on 3rd and longs, which were clutch moments for this team.
Taking a look now at our stock up, some of our biggest positive takeaways from this football game. And let's transition now to the defense, because we haven't given the defense its flowers yet. They did a spectacular job. There's a number of directions we could go because it was an all-around defensive effort. But much like Taron Johnson stole the show last week, Terrell Bernard absolutely stole the show, I think, for the Buffalo Bills this week. Again, he might be the size of a safety playing middle linebacker. He might not be that prototype that, Tremaine Edmonds was. He might struggle to stay healthy, always dealing constantly or consistently with injuries and things of that nature. But this is such a second contract, dude. I mean, this was a performance where he just literally took over. He shut down Travis Kelce. He took the onus upon himself and put the responsibility on his back. Eric Turner is currently working on an awesome film breakdown of Terrell Bernard for the film room, and he's already posting clips, and he was just in awe of what Terrell Bernard did in this football game. His leadership, the fact that he has the green dot, the fact that he calls the defense, just everything that he does, even those things that don't show up on the stat sheet. But on the stat sheet, he had a huge sack in the first quarter and a game-sealing interception at the end of the football game. Just an unreal performance from Terrell Bernard.
Exactly right. Led the team in tackles. You mentioned the game-sealing interception, the sack, using all of his skill sets, right? And his skill sets being strengthened in blitzing and spying Patrick Mahomes, which they used him for all game. That is a perfect role for Terrell Bernard to play, or one of many roles for him to play as part of this defense. And any kind of shortcomings he might have in defending the run were not a problem in this game, because all of the positives clearly outweighed any shortcomings there. His ability to stay with Mahomes, his ability to time the chase downs or the rushes of Mahomes as he was spying him, as Mahomes got out of the pocket, were flawless in my opinion. And then the game-sealing interception obviously was just a cherry on top. Didn't need it, but was just nice to get a little another interception on the stat sheet for Patrick Mahomes. So Terrell Bernard, I agree, a second contract guy for sure. And what a difference it makes to have him and Taron Johnson. I think someone mentioned in the line, but we'll talk about that in a second. But Terrell Bernard, I mean, has to once again be in consideration for All Pro this year. I know he missed some time, but man, how can you not give this guy consideration for All Pro this year?
And yes, thank you, Heather. After what, 4, 5, 6 years, I finally learned how to say Taron Johnson's name correctly. So it only took it only took me 5 or 6 years, but I got it down. Got it down now. I consistently say it correctly. I thought, and before we get to other position groups who had some stud play, how about Dorian Williams? I thought on the plays where he was asked to spy Patrick Mahomes, he did a great job as well too. So, I mean, it's going to be completely awesome getting Matt Milano back when Matt Milano comes back, but also Dorian Williams, he stepped up in a big way. And even though he struggled early and has these moments where you're like, I miss Matt Milano, like, man, what a great game for him as well.
And this is one of those situations now where the Bills are going to be able to really kind of, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of evolve depending on the opponent, depending on the game plan. They're going to have options when it comes to having Matt Milano back with Dorian Williams. Obviously, Terrell Bernard's never coming off the field. We know that. But they're going to have options, right, depending on the game plan. I mean, this was a really strong effort by Dorian Williams. I thought he did a good job containing. And while he didn't necessarily ever get to Mahomes, the fact that he kept him in front of him, right, and was bearing down on him plenty of times certainly affected the play. And really, this is a culmination of the entire season for Dorian Williams, just that continuous improvement. McDermott got asked a question about Dorian Williams today by Mookie, and I thought he did a good job kind of explaining how valuable the reps were, how smart Dorian Williams is as a football player, and just that that continuous improvement. Not being satisfied even still with where he's at now, which is a good sign if you're Dorian Williams and as a coaching staff to know that there's still maybe more in the tank for him as well to get better.
Along the defensive line, just Gregory Rousseau continues his breakout year. Only he and Jonathan Grenard, who was one of the prize free agent pickups for the Minnesota Vikings this offseason, only Rousseau and Grenard are in the top 10 in both pass rush win rate per PFF and run stop rate. So Gregory Rousseau is literally doing everything. He is stuffing the run, he is setting the edge, and he is getting to the quarterback. Gregory Rousseau earning that second contract. Von Miller was incredible. AJ Epinesa swatting balls. He played and filled his role. The entire defensive line filled their roles. And the interior finally showed some life, and Ed Oliver had a really good game as well. The defensive line really stepped up in this one.
The defensive line did step up. Oliver and Rousseau, I thought, were phenomenal in this game. Rousseau has had good games against the Chiefs in the past. His length was a problem, creating issues. I think Oliver, it finally sort of translated a bit for him. I know it's not like going to be the sexiest box score for him, but man, he was all over that interior, that Chiefs offensive line, which we said in the pregame was going to be a strength, is a strength of the Chiefs, and the Bills pass rush from the interior hadn't really gotten it going yet this year. So it was nice to see Oliver stepping up in the run game as well. By the way, I thought Vaughn was doing a good job getting pressure. There was one critique I had of Vaughn. It was at the end of the game. It was like, I think it was the second down play of the Chiefs, and like Mahomes was going out to the sideline. Vaughn could have closed in on him and just was kind of walking towards him. I don't know what was going on there, but I kind of noticed that. I'm like, what are you doing? But yes, a good game all around for the defensive line. Obviously, Kareem Hunt had his fair share of decent runs, but you take that with the contrast of what you got as far as the passing game defense from the defensive line. You would take that every time against the Kansas City Chiefs. So great job all around by that defensive line.
I mean, and then the secondary, again, Taylor Rapp obviously had that interception, which was awesome. DeMar Hamlin was great in this game. He's playing his 111th. Benford stuck out. What a difference it was having Benford and a healthy Rasul Douglas for this matchup. Last time the Bills played the Chiefs, Rasul Douglas was on one leg, and Christian Benford was inactive due to injury. Taron Johnson doing what Taron Johnson does from the slot. And in that fourth quarter, who was the guy making some of the biggest plays in the game? Dimebacker Cam Lewis. That's who. So the undrafted UB product who's been in the Buffalo Bills system for years, always got to give Cam Lewis a shout out when he shows up. So another big game from the secondary, all those guys doing their 111th, and this defense is, they are starting to sync together. The pass rush and the secondary, the linebackers, it's all coming together for this Bills defense.
One of the more maybe under the radar important plays of the game was late in the game when they actually did try a down the field shot to D-Hop, and Benford really honestly almost intercepted it, but the ball ended up squirting out and fell incomplete. That was a huge play in my opinion, because that was like a little bit of a momentum killer for the Chiefs offense. And I think that put the Chiefs in a 3rd and long. At that point. That was a big play by Benford, one-on-one with D-Hop down the right sideline. Big play from him. So, yeah, very impressed.
Onto the offensive side of the ball, I want to start not with the skill position guys, but the offense. Obviously, the run blocking, the Bills just couldn't figure that out in this game against the likes of Chris Jones and George Karlaftis. But if you would have said that the Buffalo Bill, that Josh Allen didn't get sacked in this game, like before this game started, yeah, you would take that. Like, that's incredible. Knowing what Steve Spagnuolo can draw up, knowing that Spencer Brown was out, the pass blocking was insanely good in this game. The Bills' game plan for attacking the Chiefs pass rush was extremely good. Aaron Kromer effect is real. Ryan Vandermark looked right at home. Did not look like a guy making his first career start. And how about some kudos to PFF's punching back, a guy who does not have a very good PFF grade this year, but a guy that I think is going pretty under the radar, and that is right guard Osiris Torrance, our 2nd-round draft pick from last year. We had that discussion the whole summer he was drafted, and we've continued to have this conversation. We've continued to bang this drum. Osiris Torrance was drafted to go mano-a-mano with the likes of Chris Jones. He went mano-a-mano with the likes of Chris Jones. He held his ground. What a performance from that offensive line. Specifically, to me, Osiris Torrance really stood out.
Yeah, and we said in the pregame, like, that could be an area of concern for the Bills with the right side of that offensive line. And the fact that you really didn't hear mention of Van DeMark was a good thing in this game. And Osiris Torrance did hold his own and had obviously maybe the biggest block of the game on the Josh Allen touchdown run at the end. Charles says Bills ran for 104, second most against KC this year. And obviously a lot of that was from Josh Allen too. So look,
whatever you got to do, make it work, right?
Pass protection was phenomenal. I think this might be the best, and it's going to sound weird because the running game really didn't get going, but this might be the best game the Bills' offensive line has had against this Chiefs unit, and maybe since the Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes battle started. The pass blocking was absolutely phenomenal, and when the Chiefs did blitz, Josh did his part in getting rid of the ball quickly, getting out of the pocket. That was the other thing I thought the Bills did a better job at than the Chiefs did. Josh was able to get out of the pocket and make plays more than Mahomes did. Mahomes made a couple. I'm not trying to take away from him. That one where he went to the right sideline and got that first down play towards the goal line. But man, when Josh got out of the pocket, when he did feel the pressure, we said on the pregame, he needs to be decisive with when he gets out of the pocket. If he's feeling the pressure, he did that on multiple occasions. And the times that he felt like he had that protection, he stayed in the pocket and hit some big throws. So shout out to that offensive line. It all worked. Josh made them look good too with his decision making. And they did just a great job all day in pass protection. So kudos to them. And it is nice knowing that the upside we thought there was with Van DeMark as the swing tackle kind of shown through in this game, him getting that chance and seeing him being as emotional as he was after the game and that sort of locker room chat he had. I was just really happy for him too.
The Bills receivers stepped up in a big way. Kind of a down game for Khalil Shakir. He was targeted 12 times, only caught 8 of them. But it's nice to see Khalil Shakir be targeted so many times. He really is turning into Josh Allen's safety blanket there in the slot. 8 for 70 and just some crucial catches from Khalil Shakir. They always are clutch. You don't need to worry about him dropping the ball in big moments. You know, he hangs on to him. Curtis Samuel looks like he may be getting a little healthy. 5 for 58 in his first touchdown of the year. The 11th different Buffalo Bills offensive player to score a touchdown. Cooper with 2 insanely big time alpha number 1 receiver type of grabs, going 2 for 55. Dawson Knox filled into that Dalton Kincaid role with 4 for 40. Even Quentin Morris, right? Stepping in now into the Dawson Knox role, with Dawson Knox stepping into the Dalton Kincaid role. It's not Quentin Morris's fault Josh Allen underthrew him. That play action pass, Quentin Morris did his job with an awesome fake, was wide open, streaking down the football field. Josh Allen just missed him. So even guys like Quentin Morris stepping up for the Buffalo Bills in this game. The pass catchers, I think, did a really good job.
Curtis Samuel looks so good to me in this game. I mean, his confidence in being able to get upfield and shake guys, it's a different style than Khalil Shakir.
Yep.
But man, he looked spry on a couple of those. The third down that he caught before the chains and for him to get upfield and make that catch. The touchdown where Josh kind of threw it behind him a little bit and he kind of used that momentum of having to come back to take it upfield without having to turn all the way around to his right. I posted that on social media earlier. I thought that was he had such a good feel for the game in this one. I think that's something that, maybe goes away a little bit or you don't have as much when you're kind of battling the mental hurdle of playing through an injury. That feel for the game is maybe not top of mind. And it certainly looked top of mind for him in this one. It looked like he had great feel and he was very important in this game. And on top of that, he drew the big pass interference as well on a third down that ended up getting the Bills the ball on the Chiefs side of the field that was like I don't even know, it was like a 20 or 30 yard penalty, 20, 25 yard penalty also. But man, Amari Cooper, again, you mentioned in limited limited targets, but he made them count, right? Two really huge catches. That one-hander at the beginning of the game really set the tone. And then the floated Willie Mays style catch, man. I mean, those were both so impressive to me.
Yep.
Difficult, like level 10 difficulty on both of those, and he made them both.
Correct me if I'm wrong, man, but I don't think I ever remember Josh Allen making the Russell Wilson moonball throw like that.
Well, it was like, and it wasn't even like
that was a new wrinkle for Josh Allen to me.
And it wasn't even like a super down the field like moonball like we've seen Russell Wilson. It was more like a little how do you do like to the sideline sort of short moonball. It was kind of like one of those balls
like
you throw up in that game.
A little pitch in a golf match, right? Like you just
like when you played 500 back in the day where you like kind of threw it up and like it was kind of one of those, right? Where it's like kind of like just little sidearm like out to the boundary coming across the other hash. Like it was a very like I don't think we've really seen Josh make that type of throw before, like not that exact type of throw. So it was really impressive. And I like this comment here from John. Shakir reminds me of Tyler Lockett. That's a good comparison. I do think Shakir's got a little better yak ability.
Yeah. Like Tyler Lockett is known for like seeing a defender and just falling to the ground. Khalil Shakir like initiates contact and likes that physical contact. But yeah, I can definitely see a little shades of Tyler Lockett in his ability to make plays down the field on top of being able to do the sort of the Beasley and yards after the catch stuff that he does in the underneath. But Amari Cooper postgame with some really interesting comments. He said he likes what he sees from the Josh Allen, likes what he's experienced from the Josh Allen experience so far. That was awesome. Yeah, and he even said, he's like, listen, I was just in Cleveland before that. I was sort of in Dallas before they sort of hit their stride, and I was in Oakland before that. He's like, it's the first time I've won a game and really kind of enjoyed it in a long time. So some rather candid comments from Amari Cooper, which I thought were really awesome. And I see a couple of names flashing on my screen here, right? Like, so I've seen Ryan Vandermark in the comment section. I've seen Zach Davidson talked about in the comment section in this game, right? Speaking to just like how weird and eclectic and awesome this game was for so many different reasons. You had Ryan Vandermark starting this game at right tackle, first career start. You have Zach Davidson catching his first career pass in his first career regular season game. And you have Richard Garage on 3rd and 2 on the most, like one of the most crucial plays of the game, or what could have been one of the most crucial plays in the game if Sean McDermott did make the decision he made on the very next play, having to step in for his first career snap in the National Football League. Just a lot of firsts for the Buffalo Bills on offense, and that just, again, continues to show how impressive that all was for Josh Allen and what he did.
Yeah, I mean, look, and all these reps are great because now it's going to give the Bills confidence come playoff time, come end of the regular season. These guys have to step in big moments. I'm not saying like Garage, right? He's played one snap, but Vandermark especially, right? And Quentin Morris, who's kind of been with this team for a long time, like he can step in if need be. You see Dawson Knox, who's kind of been like a forgotten guy, even though he's like making a ton of money. Like I figured he was going to have an impact, and he did. But man, this team is deep, right? It's like I think Colin Cowherd and I, he's very hit or miss for me. Like, but I think he really nailed it when he said this team is the sum of their parts. Like they really are. Like they are the sum of their parts, and they're not so necessarily concentrated on one or two specific guys like some other teams are. Obviously, the quarterback matters, but like some of these other teams you see in the NFL, like they're so concentrated on one or two guys, whether it's on offense or defense. And the Bills really aren't like that. They really are a collection of a lot of good, solid football players, some, stars, obviously, but a lot of just solid talent. So it's really nice to see.
We haven't even talked about the running backs yet. James Cook obviously had those 2 touchdowns, kind of stymied other than that in a lot of his touches. Ray Davis kind of brought in to be the closer as you see sort of that role develop for him. But again, he struggled as well. And I think one of the unsung heroes of this game has to be Ty Johnson. Had one of the longs of the game, 8 yards, and he was the pass pro guy. Like that's his role. Ty Johnson is the pass pro guy. I think he had the most snaps of any running back in this game. he stepped up in a big way, even if it didn't show up on the stat sheet for the Bills in this game.
Yeah, and it's a perfect situation for the Bills. You don't have to have James Cook out there getting banged up in pass protection. Ty Johnson is a absolute professional team player. And by the way, like they reward Ty Johnson by giving him the ball on occasion as well. So I think he seems to be pretty happy with his role. Ray Davis had one really pretty nice run, I thought, converting a third down later in the game as well. And then James Cook with the angry run touchdown. How could you James Cook two touchdown runs showed how much of a complete running back he is, even though his yardage totals were not good in this game. The first TD to just break it to the outside, the end zone angle from that. Like, go watch the end zone angle. Like, I'll tell the comment section too. Watch the end zone angle of James Cook's first touchdown run, and you will appreciate how fast he got to the edge on that. You can't really tell from the broadcast angle, but from the end zone angle, you can. So then that shows his speed to get to the edge. And then the second one shows his power, where he cuts up through the A gap and then plows over one guy and then carries the second guy into the end zone and doesn't go down on first contact. So what a complete back. I know the yardage wasn't there, but man, the Bills really have a nice trio that really all complement each other so well.
And he's got 11 touchdowns through 12 games, by the way. So a Raheem Mostert type of season for James Cook this year. Mostert had a lot of touchdowns last year. I remember that from the Dolphins, mostly because he's on my dynasty team and he's not doing anything this year. He got me negative 20
he got
points,
hurt.
Or negative 0.2 points this game.
He got hurt.
Oh, is that what happened? I wasn't paying any attention. He was on my bench, so it didn't hurt me too bad. All right. Speaking of Raheem Mostert, some stock down. Let's get to maybe some of the negative things for the Buffalo Bills. I don't have a lot because I don't want to harp too much on the negative in this game. Run blocking versus the Chiefs' stout defensive line was one, but as Charles G pointed out earlier, like, even though we struggled, we stuck with it, which I think made us not one-dimensional, which helped us in the passing game. And we still, with the help of Josh Allen, managed the second most rushing yards against the Chiefs this season. It's a good run defense. It happens. Do we maybe need to adjust some things and fix some things for the playoffs if we see the Chiefs team again? Yes, of course we do. I don't think it's going to be too sustainable for multiple games to live your life like this, but for one game, one blip, I'm willing to let it go, but the run blocking wasn't the greatest in this game.
I'll do a collective kind of stock down as it comes to just general reviews and challenges. I didn't like the challenge that we challenged a catch from DeAndre Hopkins that I understand would have made it a 3rd and 8 instead of a 3rd and 1, but like, he clearly caught it. You have John Perry, who you hired. Like, what happened there? Like, there was clearly a catch. And then conversely, at the end of the game, when it was in the hands of the booth review in New York, like, there was no review on the drop from Watson. I mean, like, that was clearly a drop, didn't catch the ball, and there was no review. So, like, just general vibe around challenges and reviews in this game, I didn't like, so stock down.
Tyler Bass missed his first extra point, and then that became an anxiety inducer all game. Did not like that. Not a big fan. Don't do that again, Tyler, please. I can't. Like, the whole game, I'm sitting, like, the game would have been a lot more comfortable had he just made that freaking extra point. He's missed 4 this year.
Yeah, and then we had to rely on him then continuously making extra points to keep it a 2-possession game. I will say this about Tyler Bass, and if he makes his next 2 field goals, if he makes his next 2, he will be at his career high for a season, tied for his career high in a season for field goal percentages made. Now, I know he missed extra points, but if he makes his next 2, that will put him tied for his highest percentage in a season for field goals.
I don't know what to make of him at this point. I just I don't know. I do not know with him, but all right. Before I took the graphic down, so this doesn't get pushed in with the negative stuff when I timestamp this. There's one positive I forgot, and I don't want this guy to get lumped in with the negative. So I took the graphic away at the bottom there, the ticker away at the bottom. Brandon Codrington, I thought he was, again, electric. He had a nice little field flipping punt return. I'm calling a shot here, Dave. I think he's here long term. That's not my shot that I'm calling. I think that next training camp, he's going to come into the training camp not as a cornerback. I think we're going to see a position change for for Codrington to an offensive skill position player next year. But I think the Bills have a good one in Codrington. And I think over time, you might see his role develop and his playmaking skills develop to a point where the Bills might try to utilize it a little bit on offense.
The new Isaiah McKenzie, the new iteration of Isaiah McKenzie.
I don't know if he'll be a legitimate like a Jamal Agnew type, right? Like you just throw him out there a little bit on offense, and maybe you have a play or two every week or two, just to try to get him the ball in space. Because I mean, the guy is absolutely electric. Walter S comes in and says, "Please, no more catching."
I will say
the guy's electric with the ball in his hands. So
I just want him to be a good returner. Mm-hmm. I don't need him to play any position. He doesn't even have to have a position on the team. Just have him as KR, PR.
I think he's gotten roasted twice in garbage time as a corner. I just don't know how much of a corner he really is.
I mean, don't even care. I don't even care.
Don't care. Don't care. Devin Hester didn't have a position on offense or defense. No one cared. No. All right. That should just about do it for us this evening. Man, that was way more enjoyable than if we would have lost that football game. Thank you guys so much in the comments section for being along for the ride with us. Thank you for putting up with us. We always enjoy what you guys bring to the comment section. You drive every single one of these shows. If you are looking to help us out, you can smash that like button. That helps us with the algorithm. And you can also click that share button and share this thing on socials. Text friends, family members, anyone you think would enjoy this recap of Bills Chiefs. Dave, any final thoughts before we head out of here this evening?
No, not sure quite yet what our plans are for the bye week as far as programming. We will let you guys know. Oh, sorry, you can finish. I was gonna say I will not be available on this upcoming Monday, so we'll see what we do. And obviously, there will be no pregame show this week because there's no game. So we'll see what we do for programming. But in the meantime, Eric just dropped a really good film room on Josh Allen.
Yep.
That's in the Discord channel, and a bunch of other stuff's coming your way this week. So it's going to still be a nice week of content.
I have an idea for a show to do on the bye week, and I don't know if I want to do it because I feel like people will get mad at me.
Like a mid-season awards thing? Or
No, I don't want to do that because everyone does that.
Yeah.
I kind of want to start tracking positional needs and talking about some draft prospects that I like. I got the show to myself next week. I don't know. I feel like people might get mad at me. I'm jinxing things. I'm looking too far ahead, but I'm really starting to get into some more college football lately. And there's some prospects I want to talk about, but I don't know. Maybe I'll just take the week off. I don't know.
It's never too early. Like you want to be the first guy to mention a prospect. That's for sure.
Yeah. And I'm just going to name 500 and 600 prospects next Monday and call dibs on everyone, every single one of them. So I will not be doing a mock draft. I told you I've sworn off mock draft. I don't know if you guys know this. I've sworn off mock drafts. I won't.
Yeah. I remember you said that.
You're going to do all the mock drafts. You're doing all the mock drafts next year. I'm not doing any of them. I'll sit there and I'll critique you. I will judge you. But I will not partake in any mock drafts next year. I'm done. I'm done with that exercise. I'm civilizing society.
I know you can do it, but I'm gonna believe it when I see it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys so much. Appreciate you as always. And until next time, go Bills.
Go Bills.
Thank you for watching tonight's episode of the Air Raid Hour. Make sure to hit that like button on the way out. If you are catching the show on demand, leave a reply in the comment section and we will respond over the course of the week. You can always listen to every episode next day on all major podcasting platforms, including Apple Podcasts and Spotify, by searching Air Raid Buffalo. Thank you for your continued support, and as always, go Bills!